And here we are live. So glad to see so many of you guys already here. And, I'm really excited about today's topic, all about low cost or free marketing ideas that you're going to be able to utilize. I'm going to be sharing 21 of them today. I mean, did you guys know that you can be doing marketing like the pros without breaking the bank? Oh, yeah. By leveraging some effective, low cost digital marketing tactics, any business, no matter how small, can spread brand awareness. Even tutors, like an online tutoring company who's just, it's just yourself. You can generate leads and you're going to be able to get more students as a direct result of this. You don't need that big marketing budget in order to have a big impact. So keep listening because we are going to be talking about today 21 low cost or free marketing ideas that you're going to be able to use today. So glad to see so many of your happy faces inside of here. I see that we have Alexa and Sharon, Esme, and Mitchell, and we also have Juliet in the house, Stephanie, Kathy, Beth. Thank you guys for all being here. It's always a pleasure to just be able to hang out with you guys. So if at any point you guys have any questions that we're talking about these 21 low cost free marketing ideas that you can start using today, if at any point in time you've got a question, throw it on in there. I'd love to bring you in as part of the conversation. So you guys, if you've been following me for a while, you know that this is a pretty big one for me. Number one is to add value. And we add value by creating some kind of content. Now, each one of these is going to get broken down into a free or low cost strategy, but you are going to create unique, helpful content, and you get to share it far and wide across the entire internet. All right. This is how I began getting students right out of the gate from other countries. What I ended up doing is I started just kind of thinking outside of the box and how can I add value? And at that point in time, Skype in the classroom was something that classrooms were doing. They're really excited to be able to open up their walls of their classroom to invite speakers to come on in. And so I connected with many of these teachers who were already doing this. I found them online and we connected and we chatted and we got to see how I could serve them in their classroom. And so I volunteered my time to do a Skype in the classroom call, and I would ask them if they'd be okay if I shared it on my YouTube channel. They said yes. And then what I would do is I would use the keywords of that Skype in the classroom. So if I was inside of, let's say I was in Australia, which I was at one point, I put in online reading tutor Australia. That actually ended up getting me a client from Australia. Okay. So, and I began getting people that would find me because of this way of adding value. I would share that content. And one of the other things that I found that the classrooms would do is they would also share the content. I didn't ask them to. They didn't have to. It wasn't part of our deal. I was just asking if I could have permission to put it on my YouTube channel, and they said yes. And then they would end up being able to take the link from the YouTube channel and they shared it with the parents, and then that also got some additional engagement from people because they wanted to watch their kids interact with the Skyping reading tutor. That's what I was called at that time. So that really, really helped to be able to get that. So yeah, I'm super excited here, you guys, to be able to share these different low cost strategies with you. So the second one is you can begin engaging with different online groups where your target market is already hanging out and you can interact with them there. Now, a lot of like homeschool groups won't let you in unless you are like a homeschooling teacher. But now with the coronavirus, there's going to be more groups that are opening on up to support parents as they help transition into the new school year. There's a lot more parents that are going to opt out of having their kids in the school system for their safety and for their own loved ones' safety. And so find groups where you can just add value. Now, this is not you go into the groups and you spam them that you have openings for students, right? None of the tactics that I'm going to share with you today are going to go down that road. It is all about how you can add value to your students. And I have run into a few people who are just really good at this strategy inside of doing this. My dear friend Sharon over in California, she is part of some different mom groups in her area on Facebook, and because of that she continues to add value, share information, all that great stuff. And then she ends up getting people who find her and hire her right off of Facebook, and they're like local moms and dads that are hiring her. So I would say a lot of people will have, Elizabeth, problems with the homeschooling communities if you're not a homeschooling parent. So you have to think about, okay, so what are some groups that exist right now that I could join? Okay, that I could follow. It can even be things that you are interested in. Okay, so you don't always have to think about specifically like parents and that kind of stuff. You could join, let's say, a hobby group that I love crocheting. So I could join like a crocheting group, and I could begin engaging and building relationships with people inside of there. And then when I run into like younger parents, I could have off conversations with them inside of Messenger. Just get to know people. What is it? What do you do for a living? And then they end up asking you, what do you do for a living? Right? You're just having these like private conversations, and you're not there to specifically sell to them. Just you're adding value by appreciating them as a person that's a member of the group. And then eventually you can have a conversation where you ask them what you do. It's just very natural for other people to ask you then, what do you do? Right? That's like the next question that will come from their mind. And you get to talk about it, not sell it. Just talk about it. Talk about what it is that you do. So one of the things that people really struggle with is social media and how to be really authentic on social media. So I think that's really something that's important. What are the things that interest you? Are there places online that you could go where there would be people? Now, there's obviously going to be parents inside of those groups and stuff too, right? You might at some point keep your ears open, hear if they ever say that their kid is struggling with something. And that can be a really, really good thing. This actually happened to me when I was first joined my first day at Jazzercise. Okay, my very first day, you guys. I go on in. I had a group on, and I couldn't handle the first hour. Now, those of you that know me know that I'm an instructor now for Jazzercise, so it kind of makes me chuckle that I couldn't handle the first hour, the whole entire hour. But I went into the hallway, and there was somebody who was just chatting, and she was saying how her child was struggling with reading. He's been dyslexic for years. And I walked on over to her, didn't know her yet at this point, and I just said, I couldn't help but overhear that you have a child that's struggling with reading, and I happen to help kids that have dyslexia and struggle with reading. And she's like, really? Tell me more. And so it was like just it was a natural kind of way to kind of come on in. Like, I didn't go up to her and just start talking about my business. It wasn't weird. And it led into a client, and she ended up staying with me for 3 months. And that ended up paying for my Jazzercise for like the next 2 years. So that's really cool. And that's what we can do online as well, right? You can engage in places that you enjoy hanging out, and then you can have conversations with people, and you're just there to listen. Like, if there's something that they say that perks your interest, you respond back. Maybe you build a relationship with some of the people online. It's really easy to do, to build these authentic relationships with other people who have similar interests as you. And then you end up developing these online friendships where people really want to start talking about you and what it is that you do. So another thing that, Sharon had mentioned that homeschoolers like to include outside enrichment. Currently, that is unavailable. and this is an opportunity for us, right? So there's not a lot of outside enrichment that's going on because of the current pandemic that we're going through. And so they're more open to not only working with online tutors, they're more open to creative ideas that online tutors have. Like maybe you brainstorm that you're going to do you're going to do a book club, right? It's not like your typical tutoring situation, but a parent may enroll their child in a book club at the library, but right now they're hesitant to enroll their child in a book club because they don't want them coming in contact with other kids, right? So that could be something that you offer for enrichment for their kids and keep them going. Um, Another tip number 3 is to blog regularly. So every website is now set up where you are going to be able to blog. You keep it updated with fresh content, okay? So you can think about, okay, there's many different types of content that we can create. We can create blogs, live streams, videos, images, podcasts. All those things are pieces of content that we can create. Figure out where you want to start playing when it comes to that content, and then you can begin. You can now begin going into that and being able to talk about things that are of interest to your ideal client. And so with a blog, you can start thinking about, okay, what are the most typical questions that I get asked? So think about the 10 questions that parents ask you or other people ask you about what it is that you do. So here's one of the most typical ones. How do you teach reading online? That was always one of the biggest ones. So I could do one. Here's how I teach reading online. And go through, I could share one of the videos that I've created with one of my students, and I could write about how I do the assessment online. I could talk about that whole process, right? And I could share how I find out where the gaps are for the student and all of that. The other thing that you can write about are the 10 should ask questions. So think about 10 questions that you don't get asked, but you should get asked. All right. So I often, I'll hear things like this, like, I just wish that my kid wanted to read. Well, here's why they're not wanting to read. They're not reading things that are engaging them, right? And so, or they're picking up books that are too hard for them. So how do I pick out a just right book? That would be a question that they should be asking. How do I pick out just right books for my kids, right? And so you now are creating this really great content that helps people with being able to add value. Tip number 4 is to share useful tips on social media. So try to get your audience liking and sharing things. So if we think about it, we've got lots of different social media tools that are out there right now. The big top ones are when we talk about like sharing useful tips. You could share useful tips on YouTube in video style. You can share useful tip on Pinterest by creating a pin with an image that leads to your blog post. You can create a useful tip inside of Instagram and be able to share it with your group. That could lead to your blog post, or it could just be an interesting tip, and then you're just having a conversation about it inside of there. You could post a story of tips. So it could be like 5 tips for getting your child to read during the coronavirus, or for the start of the new school year, and then you could have, pick out just right books, and then they swipe and there's another tip, and then they swipe and then there's another tip. So these are some different ways that you can kind of use the different social media. It used to be about, like, I would say 5 years ago, you could take one piece of content and you could just share it everywhere and kind of blast it. But now one of the things that's a little bit different is every single social media tool doesn't work the same. So in Instagram, you can use a ton of hashtags, right? And you're going to be fine. But if you use a ton of hashtags on Twitter, you're going to be known as a hash hole. Yeah, that don't sound so good, does it? So it's going to be seen very negatively over there. And and so that's one of those things that like you need to really understand the social media tool that it is that you are using and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable so that you're not applying the wrong rules to social media and then being seen as somebody who is not adding value. All right, so number 6, actually, 5, sorry, I almost skipped 5. 5 is create a social media group that is related to your brand. Okay, so here you can create your own group. So, you guys, if you're not part of the Ultimate Support Group for Online Tutors, definitely join us on over there. And what I do over there is it's a place where tutors can ask questions. Right now, I'm actually live streaming straight on into Facebook and YouTube at the same time simultaneously. And so I can actually see all of the things that you guys are saying in Facebook and all the things that you guys are seeing inside of YouTube right in front of me. I'm using a tool that is called OBS and Restream. So Restream is allowing me to stream in those both places at one time into that group. And so this is a really great way to really create, you can do the same thing with your tutoring business. You can create a group for parents that need help with, let's say, preparing their child for the SAT and the ACT, right? You can create a group with that. Like, a lot of times parents want to be able to do the help on their own. They want to be able to help their child, and then it's when they get frustrated, that is the moment that they want to be able to hire you. And so creating those different groups can work. There's groups on LinkedIn. There's groups on Facebook. So those are just 2 of the places where there's specifically groups that you can create and do that with. Number 6 is to build an email list and send your subscribers exclusive content, industry news, and special deals. So a lot of people will end up creating an email list by creating a freebie, and then they put that freebie on their website so that when people come to their website, they get on their email list. Now, a lot of people think when it comes to their website that everybody who comes to their website is interested in getting started with tutoring. But sometimes people are in the searching phase. They're not really sure who they want to go with or what. If they come to your website and they leave, they never have that opportunity to come back again if they never took a next step with you, right? And so having a freebie on there allows them to get onto an email list where they're going to be able to move forward with you. And we're going to be going into the strategy a little bit more next week during our free 5-day challenge. It is the low-cost marketing challenge that I am putting into place. I am going to put a link inside of here. If you haven't signed up for it, definitely sign up for it. Every single day from 8:30 to 9 in the morning, Central Time, I am going to be going live inside of that group, and I'm going to be giving people different tips and strategies of things that they can put into place. So at the end of the week, they have put in some low-cost marketing strategies into place. So definitely come join us there for that. Welcome. We've got Maya from Argentina. How is the weather in Argentina? That sounds like such a gorgeous location, doesn't it, you guys? I would love to go to Argentina. All right, so we're going to now move on into number 7. So you can produce short videos that tackle specific problems in your niche and post them on YouTube. Now, here's something. I was talking with another guy yesterday, Patrick Jordan. Some of you may have seen him inside of the Ultimate Support Group. He's been in our group for years. And what's really cool is that he's like, he wants to focus on the ADD and the ADHD child that are taking the SAT or the ACT or any kind of, big exam. He's going to start with one and then move into another. And so he's like, I'm going to create 6-minute clip videos where it gives them one or two things that they can do to improve at a time. And this is going to, help get the word out there about what he does, but it also appeals to that ideal client who has that ADD or that ADHD, right? And is really struggling. I know my dear friend Kathy, who's watching, is like, Joanne, ADD doesn't exist anymore. They all go under the umbrella of ADHD. It's going to take a little while to retrain my brain to think that way. So I promise you, I'll get there. I will get there. Next, number 8, you can hold a live stream event where you teach something to your audience and interact with them in real time. Like right now, I'm interacting with you guys, right? Maya said it's very cold right now in Argentina. I'm sorry to hear that. It seems like such a warm place. Like here, it's like it's in the 70s today. So it's a little cool for, I think, summertime, but it's a really nice, pleasant temperature outside. So you can see here how I'm interacting during the live stream event with real people that are actually watching, which is fantastic. And holding a live stream like this, it's not as difficult as you would expect it to be, because you have that ability to really interact with people. You're engaging with people, you're adding them into part of the conversation, and you're really able to be able to be authentic on the live stream and be who it is that you are. You're able to like make mistakes, and it's not the end of the world because people realize like, oh, well, this is live, right? She might make mistakes. She might do this. She might do that. That's okay. She might have tech issues, right? Like there's a lot of forgiveness. Whereas if I just create a video, there's very little forgiveness. People expect higher video quality content, all of that kind of stuff. So going live and having that specific time, for me, I have a specific time each week that I go live so that you guys can always find me. So if you're ever wondering, what time will Joanne be going live? I go live 2 times a week. 9:30 a.m. Central Time on Mondays and 11:30 a.m. Central Time on Thursdays. So I'm live in both places, Facebook and YouTube during those times. So you can always catch me in both of those places if you're interested in interacting with me live and being able to hang out together. Number 9, I love this low cost one. Like everybody loves to be able to get a referral. But now it comes down to being able to learn how to ask for those referrals. Get your audience members to tell their friends about you. Now, this is really cool too. Like sometimes it just happens randomly and you're like, oh my gosh, I never heard of that person who referred me. But that's cool. Awesome. But there's also a tact to being able to ask people to refer you. So you can actually ask people to refer you. And, the best time you guys to ever ask is after they give you a compliment. So one of the things that I'll do is I'll ask them if they give me a compliment. I'll be like, thank you so much for that. It really means a lot. Maybe I've been having a bad day, and I'll just put that in there. Like I was having a bad day and your comment just like lifted me up. Or I might say something like, knowing that what I do is really impacting kids' lives, like your sons, just it makes the world for me. Like that's why I live and breathe. I love being able to do it. And thank you so much for what you said. Would you be willing, if anybody happens to have a child that's struggling, would you be willing to share my information with them? Another thing you can say is, would you be willing to leave a testimonial here in this specific space? Maybe it's Google. Maybe it's on your website. Maybe it's in LinkedIn under the recommendations. Wherever it is, you want to be specific with them and tell them where you go. So you guys get to see my green screen. It like popped on in there for a second. Wanted to make a little visit. I'm not sure why my background like disappeared, but here we go. We got our background back. Oh, Grease. We got Marks in the house. Hello, Marks. Yes, Beth, referrals are wonderful. I feel blessed too to be able to get them. I just got one 3 days ago from Alexa and Wally. So thank you, Alexa. If you're watching this, shout out. Woo, woo. Referrals are a really great way to be able to continue to build your business. And it really comes down from being authentic and being yourself in everything that you interact in, right? And so Alexa and I have worked together personally on many different levels, And she just had a student that she was like, I don't know if this is a right fit for me. Let me see if Joanne has any availability. And she reached out to me, and I had one spot left. So it was perfect timing because I had a student that had just left. And so it was like really perfect timing. And it's great when it can work out like that. Another thing that you can do is you can write a press release. So you can take an event that you're having in your business and tell the public about it. Maybe it's a free webinar that you're going to be holding and you want to create a press release. You can do that. All you have to do is type into Google, where can I send press releases? And you can find some press release websites that are out there that you'll be able to send press releases to about your webinar that you're going to be holding. Number 11 is to follow conversations online related to your business. You can learn a great deal about your market by seeing what conversations they're having. All right. So start typing in things about, reading tutoring. What exists out there? What other groups are there that are out there? So if you're an ACT, SAT, math tutor, join other groups that are related to that. The biggest place that you can join those groups are either going to be LinkedIn or Facebook, Facebook being the number one place to be able to join those kinds of groups. The cool thing is you're going to start to connect with different people inside of those groups, right? And they're going to get to know you over time and be able to recognize you as an expert in the field because of the conversations and what you say about the topic and all of that kind of stuff, right? So they're going to start respecting you and trusting you, if you are showing up, and that's really a big thing, right? We have to actually show up. Once you decide to take this leap, you now need to show up. You can't just decide, oh, well, I'm going to join this group and then never interact with them. It doesn't work that way. You have to go on in and you have to interact with them in order to get some really great motion and momentum from that strategy. Number 12, send out a customer satisfaction survey. So get feedback from your customers so that you can make improvements to your tutoring services. So it's really easy for people to say lots of great things about you, but never really share anything that hasn't been working so well with you. Because they respect you and they appreciate you. And sometimes it can be harder for them to open up and say what's really going on for them. And by sending out a customer satisfaction survey, you now get that ability to find out, okay, how are things really going? Is there something that I can improve on? Is there something I can get better? I do this all the time with the Jumpstart program. We'll be releasing that in about 3 weeks. You'll begin hearing more about that program. But at the end of that program, I get the feedback from everybody that goes through that program, and they tell me what works, what doesn't work. And then we're able to make changes as a business to meet the needs of more people. One thing that I had realized the last time around is that I hadn't given the link for their Wednesday calls because they were given it once, but I didn't continue to give it to them over and over again. And so some of them forgot. They had the calls. Some of them didn't know where to get the number to be able to call in. And so we were able to make some tweaks and put it onto our, we have a syllabus that they get. And so on the syllabus, we were able to add those numbers on there so they could always access that syllabus and always have access to that number. And so that made the transition easier. But if I didn't get that feedback from people, I wouldn't know that that was something that was a problem. So I'm really glad that people were able to share that that was a problem and we could fix that, because then you just make your services so much better. You become more confident and they become more confident in working with you. Now, here's something that's so much fun, you guys. Number 13 is to create collaborative content with a business partner or a colleague. And this is a win-win because you both get exposure to each other's audiences. So let's say you're networking with other tutors, right? And you're like, you know what? Like, there is this other tutor, and I feel like we could write like this fabulous blog post together where I could really hit this aspect of of testing, and she could hit this aspect of testing, and I think it would really be positive. I share it on my blog, and she shares it on her blog, and they both link back to each other's blogs. So now you're doubling down on how many people are able to see you. Networking, you guys, is absolutely huge. And guess what? It is free. You do not need to pay to like hang out with people. Now, you may want to decide, at some point in time, well, I really want to be I really want to be part of a quality networking group. I really want to join the Insider Secrets Club that you have, Joanne. And I know that there's a lot of really valuable relationships that I could build inside of there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got people who are so committed inside of that group. It is awesome. I always love going inside of that group, being able to connect and chat with those people because so good. I love it. And we have inside of Facebook here, let's see, we have, I'm going to do this. We've got Atoll. I knew that was you, Atoll. Atoll just has made videos with Paul Morgan. And that is a really cool thing to be able to do. You share value and you are able to do all of that kind of stuff. It's great when you can be able to work together with other online tutors. Fantastic stuff. Number 14, and this is critical, you guys, number 14, drill down on your unique value proposition. So here you create a simple statement that explains how you uniquely meet your customers' needs, and you use this wherever you have a profile online, okay? So what makes me unique? I have found out that what makes me unique as an online reading tutor is that I'm able to close the gap a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction. Okay, there's like nobody before I started saying that was able to say that. Now there are people that have joined my reading interventionist program. They've learned how to do it. They're tracking their results, seeing if they're able to do it, and some of them are noticing that they can do it. But when I first came out with that, it was really unique to me because there weren't other people who could easily and successfully say that. That's my unique value proposition. What is your unique value proposition? What makes you unique? And why do people want to work with you? Is there a certain type of result that you can get? Can you increase kids' SAT scores by at least 100 points? Can you increase somebody's ACT scores by at least 4 points? Can you turn a kid who is at a really reading at a second grade reading level and is in fifth grade and really motivate them to want to be able to read? I mean, if so, then this could be really, really helpful and valuable to them, right? Think of a way to be able to state it and say it. The next one is write guest blog posts and submit them to other people's blogs to get exposure to a new audience. Yeah, awesome stuff. So writing guest blog posts, again, you're adding value, right? You found other people that also have a blog, and now you get in front of their audience. A great way to start doing this is start taking a look at like Teachers Pay Teachers. Teachers Pay Teachers is a great place to begin some of these collaborations because they're all tutors and teachers, right? So you go to Teachers Pay Teachers and you see who is creating content that's very similar to the types of stuff that you create. And then from there, you are able to build relationship up enough where you feel confident enough to say, hey, would you be willing to write on my blog post? I'd love to be able to share the resources and tools that you have. And if you're ever interested in having me write on your blog, I'd love to be able to share A, B, or C. You just choose like 3 different topics that you think might be of value to them. And just like that, you now have a great collaboration of getting in front of each other's audiences, and you're sharing. You're not just saying, can I write on your blog? Right? You're actually sharing out like, hey, I'd love to invite you onto my blog so that you can share more information about the resources and products that you've created. It's awesome. Yeah, and Beth said it's so cool that you're not afraid of the competition, but you're actively helping the competition by educating them on your unique skill. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just going to switch here my headset because my headset was causing some issues. So I am just going to put that on over here. But it's really, really awesome. And another thing that you can do, not only can you be a guest on a blog post, but you can also be a guest on a podcast. So you can get interviewed on topics that are interesting to, the show's audience. I love this story where I got onto a podcast. It was called the School Sucks Podcast, and it was particularly meant for homeschoolers. So, those of you that are looking for homeschool podcasts, definitely go on into, Google and put homeschool podcast. You'll see podcasts show up. What you want to do is you want to look for those podcasts that are relevant. They're still being produced because sometimes you'll find past ones that are no longer being produced. But I ended up going onto this podcast and I ended up getting a client that first week after the podcast was released. And then I ended up getting 2 more clients right after that. And I've had this steady stream now of homeschool parents finding me. And I have a really good inkling that because the podcasts don't go away, right? Like anybody can go and find it. Put School Sucks podcast in there and put in Joanne Kaminsky. You'll still find my the entire episode that I did with this guy. So I would say it's really awesome when you can connect with the right audience because you are really putting yourself into a place to succeed. If you really want to be able to get found by clients from all over the world, then you really need to be able to find out how you can, take advantage of these kinds of resources and tools so that people want to hear what it is that you have to say. They will lead to new students, I promise you. Another thing that you can do is you can check out Quora and other Q&A sites to see what are some of the questions that people are asking about your topic. What's cool about Quora is that, let's say I find a question. I can create a answer to that question specifically. And then I can link, let's say, my YouTube video that I created for it and say, this is such a great question. I decided to create a video on it. You put your link in there, the video shows on up, and then people watch it instead of having to read the answer. And it gets a little bit more, interactivity. Or you could lead them to a blog post that you've written. And you could say, this is such a great question, but it deserves such a long answer. I decided to create a blog post about it. And you can find it here. And then they click on that link and they go to your blog post. Your blog post is saved on your website. Therefore, you are able to get that exposure, right, to your website. People are coming there. And in that blog post, you could have a call to action of what should they do next to get started with you. At the end, of course, right? Not like at the beginning or whatever, but that definitely helps. So great question here. Elizabeth said, of all the types of exposure that you have, what should you focus on first? For example, a website, a blog, a Facebook group, YouTube videos. This is going to be a different answer for everybody. I do think it really does help to have your website done, but I've seen people who are very effective and don't have a website that's done. So I would say, like, in my mind, if I were to do it, I would definitely have the website. The second place I would go is I would start thinking about what is my favorite type of content to create. Can I see myself blogging? Can I see myself doing some of these other things I'm talking about, live streaming videos, podcasting? What do I see myself as being capable of doing? And then I focus on really learning everything I can about that and making it better and better and better. Now, obviously, if I have content, but I have no social media following, it's going to be hard for people to see that content because the next step is I take that content and I start sharing it on my social media sites. So while I'm creating that content, I'm also engaging on the social media sites so that I'm building that following and building that engagement. Now, I want you to think about this because a lot of people think, oh my gosh, Joanne, you are suggesting so many tactics, and there's absolutely no way that I can put all of this in pieces in place. If you're feeling like that right now, I would really love for you to join our 5-day marketing challenge next week. It is going to be incredible. You just have to sign up right there at that link so that you can join us live. And we're going to be sharing just 5 tactics that we're going to be digging a little bit deeper on into so that it's not as overwhelming for you. We had the question, if a child is reading 4 years or grade levels below, how do I say in my marketing that I will increase your child's reading grade level by 1 grade in 3 months? All right, first of all, Jersey, I'm not sure if you have been able to do that or not. I don't know you well enough to know if that's something that you've done. So first of all, you want to make sure that you are able to do that, right? So I actually did assessments with each of my students that I was working with for a full year, and I tracked the results. And that's how I found out I was able to close the gap a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction. So you want to make sure that whatever you say is true to what you are able to do. And then I want you just to kind of like sit with it and say, okay, I know this is true of me to do. What would be the best way for me to say that? And then those words are going to magically come to you. If you just kind of sit with it and say, okay, what words will make me seem unique for what I'm able to do? And that's really what we want to do. Is you don't want to say something the way somebody else already says it. You really want to think about how it really impacts or affects, what you're doing. And in my marketing, just so you guys know, I say I'm able to close the reading gap. I am able to close the reading gap a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction. I don't have a guarantee and say I'm going to close the gap for your child, because there's some things that I just don't know. I don't know what the student's learning rate is. How fast can they learn? Obviously, somebody who's cognitively delayed or somebody who has dyslexia, like a severe case of dyslexia, may struggle a little bit more than other students. Not all students learn at the same rate. So it does get a little complicated when you start putting those types of pieces inside of there. So I just say, hey, on average, I typically, if the kids don't have like these kinds of learning disabilities, I'm able to close the gap a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction. So that definitely helps. So back to Quora, such a great tool. So what you can do is you can share your Quora response with your social media, and you could say, hey, could you guys upvote it? And people will upvote it for you. And when they upvote it, the person with the most upvotes ends up in the first position of Quora. So if I have the most upvotes, I get featured first, which is pretty cool. So you want to reach out to everybody you know and be like, hey, I just wrote this post on Quora responding to this person's question. Would you mind taking a look at it and then upvoting it for me? And a lot of people that are really close to you, they'd be like more than happy to do that for you. Number 19 is to offer educational opportunities like webinars and online group coaching sessions, or online to do like a free, you could do a free assessment, or you could do like a free consultation. So yesterday I held a webinar for tutors. It was all about 3 tips you can't afford to miss about branding. And then afterwards, people got invited to be able to join our brand new course, which is called Branding University. And these kinds of things, they really work, you guys. They really work. So you definitely want to think about, okay, well, how could I hold a webinar if I was going to do like a summer camp for students, or if I was going to do a book club, right? So you start thinking about what are the biggest fears, internal fears that parents have about doing a book club with their own kid. One of the internal fears they might have is maybe they don't feel like they can think as deeply about the topic. Maybe an external fear is that they won't stick with it because they start a book with their kids, but then they never really finish it, or um, and then the other is the last thing is the vehicle when you think about creating a webinar. And that vehicle is to have an online book club. So, how can online book clubs help with being able to get your kids motivated and excited to read? So, you kind of take that approach to it, and then you share information on those three aspects, and you end up creating a really great, valuable webinar, or then you can invite people to take that next step with you afterwards. Number 20 is to reach out to influencers in your niche and try to get them talking about you. And so that is a really big one, is to start thinking about, okay, who are the influencers inside of, let's say, the SAT, ACT world? Who are the influencers? Find out who they are. Don't be afraid to begin following them, connecting with them. If they've got a group on Facebook, engage, and be the most valuable person that you possibly can in that group. Don't be spammy. No spammy allowed. But just be of value. And there is a great opportunity there for you that if you do that and they start talking about you, amazing things will happen. I have now companies reaching out to me for influencer marketing because they see me as an influencer. And it's really cool to be able to, give back as an influencer and give shout outs to things that are really helpful for online tutors. Now, I refuse to be an influencer for something that, is shoddy or not really good, and do all that kind of stuff. So people, I think that just builds up then your influencer status. And anyone can become an influencer. Like, you have the power to become an influencer as much as I had the power to become an influencer. In the beginning, I never thought of, like, they didn't even have that term when I got started. When I started building my website, my YouTube channel, they didn't even have the term influencer out there as a thing. And now influencers are all over the place. So you could choose to be an influencer yourself and just build a great audience that you can share either affiliate links with or products and courses that you create along with the tutoring services. There's so many opportunities that are available out there. It is astoundingly awesome. It really excites me. And then the last one, number 21, and I have to say this is the thing that I have really enjoyed the most in my entire time of being able to help tutors, is to create an online community where your target market can discuss issues, network, and get the support that they need. So first, you want to discover who it is that you want to be able to help. Is it working moms who just don't have time to be able to help their child as much as they want to, but they do care about helping their kids? Is it stay-at-home moms that, they're not homeschooling, but they're stay-at-home moms. They got some young kids, they got some older kids, right? Think about who is the community that you want to be able to target. Create a group where you can connect. And you know what? Nobody says that this has to be a free group. It could be a paid group. It could be, I've got both. I have the free and I have the paid. So I've got the free where people come on into the Ultimate Support Group for online tutors. And then I have the paid, which is the Insider Secrets Club, where they get a ton more resources and help than obviously the free group, because I can afford to put more time into that group. And so you can start thinking about, okay, is there a way that I can have a membership? where these parents are able to come on in for live calls each week to be able to come up with ideas and solutions and stay on top of their kids' reading or stay on top of their kids' homework or stay on top of their kids' math, whatever it is, right? You could have a membership group specifically for those parents. And guess who's going to be the most excited to be able to hire you if they ever want to be able to hire you? They are, because they're already part of your membership. They already love you. They already know you. And it's really fantastic. So there's so many opportunities. And I'd have to say the nice thing about having a membership, you guys, is that it is stable income. Like I don't have to keep selling a product in order to have that money coming on in. It's reliable income. My husband was telling me yesterday, he works for an engineering business. And it's called Rockwell Automation, where they sell push buttons and like push buttons like for like amusement car rides, for different machines, all kinds of different kinds of push buttons that they create. And he said that they are starting to move into a membership versus a one-time fee. And he's like, because of the exact thing that I'm talking about, it is ongoing recurring income that you don't have to continue to sell yourself on. So, how do you get started, you guys? You're just going to take an idea from what I've said so far today and give it a try. I'm not saying give it all a try, just give something a try. And then you're going to monitor your results and see where you can improve. So, add a new tactic when you're ready. Don't feel like you have to take them on all at once, right? Then the next tactic, get good at that, and so on. And then pretty soon you're going to have a whole repertoire of effective techniques that you are going to be use that don't cost you anything. And that is the key, right? Because in the beginning, when we're getting started, we don't have a lot of money, but we have a lot of time. So we can invest our time into being able to put the right pieces into our business. So you guys, I really want to, you guys, oh, great. I love this question. Before we head on out, what is your favorite strategy that I listed today? Yeah, I want to hear what you guys have, or the one that sounds the most interesting. So maybe it's something that you're already trying, or maybe you're like, okay, well, I'm really good at this, and now I want to up my game and go here. I'd love for you guys to be able to type that on in and share it with us. Because we should always be growing and thinking and doing new things when it comes to marketing our online tutoring business. And don't forget that next week you guys can join us in the 5-day challenge. So click there and be able to join us. Elizabeth loves them all. She's going to try them all at some point. I love it. Well, thank you for joining me today, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and feel free to rewatch this again so you can hear those 21 tips, write them down, and really start thinking about, okay, how can I utilize this inside of my tutoring business? Enjoy the rest of your day, you guys, and I will see all of you soon. Bye, everyone.